Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. HTM here, and in this video you're checking out my list of the top 5 pet builds for the Elder Scrolls Online. Now, pet builds are a unique and fun playstyle in many MMOs, and the Elder Scrolls Online is definitely no exception. Pet builds can be a great option in this game, whether it's for group content or solo content, from beginner builds to endgame builds in both PvE and PvP. So there's plenty of flexibility here if a pet build is what you're interested in. Now, these builds will be based on my own personal experience. They're not necessarily the meta build for every instance, but they sure are fun to play. And if you're interested in this pet playstyle, then I think you'll enjoy these. And if you have any suggestions or comments on pet builds or how I rank them in this video, make sure to let us know in the comments section down below. With that said, let's get started. All right, let's jump right into our number 5 pet build for this list, which is going to be the Nightblade. Now, normally in this list, I will specify either Stamina or Magicka as the build, but in this case, both builds can use the same pet ability nearly equally well, so I'm going to list them both together here just to keep things simple. Now, what ability can you run as a Nightblade to create a quote-unquote pet build? Well, the skill and morph that I like to use on the Nightblade class here is the Dark Shade ability from the Shadow skill line. You can see this does AoE magic damage while also debuffing all nearby enemies with minor maim, causing them to do less damage. So this is a helpful utility skill for sure thanks to that debuff, but the damage here also scales with your highest stat, which means that it can technically be used on either a Stamina or Magicka Nightblade build with some success. Now, I will say that Dark Shade does fit a little bit better on the Magicka Nightblade in my opinion, not only because it does magic-based damage, but also because you can pair this pet skill with the Necropotent set to buff your max Magicka extremely high as long as that Dark Shade is active. So keep this in mind if you want to focus on buffing your Magicka pool as high as possible on the Nightblade. This is going to be a great option. Lastly, you can choose to go with the Shadow Image morph of this skill if you prefer, which also provides the same debuff but gives you even more utility as you can now teleport directly to that shade whenever you need to get out of trouble, making this a great option for Nightblade PvP builds. Next, let's talk about the number 4 pet build on our list, which is going to be the Stamina Sorcerer. Now, Sorcerers in general have more pet-focused abilities than most classes, thanks to the Daedric summoning skill line, and while most of these abilities either cost Magicka to cast or are an ultimate ability, some of them actually scale very well with Stamina builds. Specifically, we're talking about our buddy, the unstable Clannfear. As you can see, the Clannfear does physical damage, which will synchronize well with the Stamsorc for DPS purposes, especially since you don't need to cast the ability to do damage. It just automatically attacks for you, which is great to simplify your rotation. Not only that, but this ability also can heal you and the Clannfear whenever you recast the skill, which is a great option for survivability. And on top of this, it also functions as a taunt in many solo situations, which is actually one of my favorite ways to play the game. I love running this on the Stamina Sorcerer bow build, letting the Clannfear tank for me while I sit safely in the back with some juicy bow skills firing from range. This is a lot of fun to play. By the way, if you'd like any more information on the Stamina Sorcerer DPS build or the Arcane Archer bow build, I'll have links for those in the description and also in the written guide. Now, I can't forget to mention also the Summon Storm Atronach Ultimate, which on the Stamina Sorcerer still does big damage and is also one of the longest duration ultimates in the game. Something to keep in mind especially is that ultimates do scale up with your highest stats. So even though it does do shock damage here, that damage will be further increased by buffing your own stamina and weapon damage. Ultimates are flexible in that way, so this is a very strong option as well. Finally, one of my favorite sets that I need to mention in this video, which I love to run as a Stamina Sorcerer pet build, is the Aegis Caller set from the Unhallowed Grave Dungeon. This set literally summons an air Atronach, which you're not going to get anywhere else. And while it's not technically a commandable pet like our other Sorcerer abilities, it looks pretty sick, and it does fit in great with the Stamina Sorcerer theme. Number 3 on our list of the top 5 pet builds in the Elder Scrolls Online is going to be the Magicka Necromancer. Now, I do think the Magicka Necro here is a better choice for a pet build than the Stamina version of this class. Even though there are Stamina morphs for almost every Necromancer skill in the game, the reason for this is that Stamina builds are usually more effective when they run a decent amount of weapon skills rather than class skills. This means that, yes, you can play as a Stamcrow pet build, but you're usually just better off using those weapon abilities instead. Now, the Magicka Necromancer, on the other hand, has many powerful pet-like abilities, starting with our defense/healing buff called Spirit Mender. Either morph of this is fine. Spirit Guardian will give you some additional defense, which is going to be great for solo builds and PvP, while Intensive Mender will be a great option for Necromancer healer builds. Now, either of these morphs are fantastic because, number one, they count as a actual pet in ESO, which means it will, again, let you run sets like Necropotence for the extra max Magicka while a pet is active. And second, it gives us the amazing Undead Confederate passive, which increases both our Magicka and stamina recovery at all times, as long as that Spirit Mender is active. Then we've got the Skeletal Arcanist pet. This is from the Gravelord skill line. Now, this is a pretty strong ability as well because it does AoE damage rather than single target damage. This will be great for solo play, group play, DPS, whatever you need. Finally, our primary damage ability here, the Blast Bone skill. This counts as a summon pet as well, which along with the Spirit Mender and the Skeletal Arcanist gives you basically an army of undead pets to do your bidding, which looks and feels amazing. So if you like that dark-themed pet build, then definitely check out the Magicka Necromancer. Moving on to our top two, and we get to talk about one of my favorite builds in the game, the Stamina Warden. There are so many great options that you can do on the Stam Warden, whether you want to play solo, grind experience, play as a DPS in a group, PvP. You just have lots of flexibility here. Now, my personal favorite is the Stamina Warden bow build. I have tons of these on my channel, from beginner builds to solo to group DPS. So make sure to check out the description below and the written guide for links to those. Now, all of these builds function really well with the bear pet, which is going to be our ultimate. This comes from the Animal Companion skill line. It does massive damage, both single target and AoE damage. It gives us some very good passives. And apparently it also protects you when you're recording videos, which is even better. You can also reactivate this skill for even more execute damage if you want. Now, bow builds are not the only way to go with the Stamina Warden. Melee builds work just as well in conjunction with that bear pet also. I usually prefer a two-hander, which is going to be fantastic for solo content and arenas especially. Mix in Brawler, Reverse Slice, and you've got a very powerful build. Now, one final note on the Stamina Warden. There's actually a nice stamina-focused pet armor set you can get from Maelstrom Arena that I do recommend. This is called the Hunt Leader. This gives you a solid heal and stamina sustain every time your pet does damage, which is going to be no problem as long as you're using that bear pet. And of course, last but not least, we have our Big Daddy #1 pet build, the classic ESO pet class, the Magicka Sorcerer. Now, Magicka Sorcerers do better than their stamina counterpart for pets, thanks to two really powerful pet abilities that they have access to. The first is Summon Volatile Familiar. This does very consistent AoE damage, plus a nice stun at the end. This is the other morph of Unstable Clan Fear, by the way, which we used on the Stamina Sorcerer build back in number 4. Now, in addition to the Volatile Familiar, you then have the Twilight. This can be morphed into either a damage dealer pet called the Tormentor or a healer pet called the Matriarch. Honestly, these are both fantastic abilities, and it's hard to choose just one morph in this case. I think if your goal for your build is to deal damage as a pet build exclusively, then obviously I would select the Tormentor. However, if you want a more balanced, a more flexible build, then I would probably go with the Matriarch. The Matriarch morph does a little bit of damage still, though less than the Tormentor, but that extra burst heal from the Matriarch, this is an absolute lifesaver. Whether you are solo, you're playing in a group, PvE or PvP, it's one of the strongest heals in the game. So yes, you can even run a pet-based healer on the Magicka Sorcerer too. Don't forget you can run that Storm Atronach Ultimate for a third pet, and to unlock a fourth pet, yes, a fourth pet, check out the Maw of the Inferno Monsters set, which will summon the fire-breathing Daedroth pet for you. This can do a lot of damage as well, and if you just want to flood your screen with nothing but pets, then this is the way to do it. Magicka Sorcerer all the way. So with that said, that's going to wrap up our list of the top 5 best pet builds in the Elder Scrolls Online. I do have about 2 more pet builds that I felt were not quite strong enough to fit on this video, that being the Magicka Warden and the Werewolf. but I have included them over on the written guide at hacktheminotaur.com. So if you'd like to see more information on those or on any build I presented here in this video, make sure to check out that link. I'll have that down in the description and the pinned comment. As always, I hope you found this guide helpful in choosing your next build for ESO. Of course, if I missed anything at all, and I'm sure I did on this one, make sure to let us know in the comments section down below. Do you play a pet build? What class, what skills, what sets do you run? I'd love to know, so make sure to share those in the comments. Thanks again, everybody, for watching. I hope you're doing well. Stay safe out there, and I will see you around in the next video.